So I'm gonna be real with you. Motorcycles kind of scare me. Okay, when I was a kid, I was 13 years old. I was riding on the back of a dirt bike with a friend. Weren't wearing helmets. He hit a little bit of a bump. I went flying. I smacked my head on the ground. Probably got a concussion. Probably explains why I am the way I am in the year of 2023. So while I'll never ride a motorcycle in real life because I mean, really, I could barely ride a bicycle, to be honest with you. Motorcycle video games are super cool. Of course, games like Super Hang-On and Mannix TT on the Sega Saturn, these are motorcycle games that I've always enjoyed playing, but I can honestly say I don't think I've ever played a realistic style motorbike game that involves like course racing and stuff like that. The fine folks over at Ride decided to reach out to me and ask me if I wanted to check out Ride 5 for a sponsored gameplay video, and I thought, yeah, I remember this Ride series. It was known for its graphics. People were confused as to whether or not this was real life or a video game, so that really piqued my interest. And as a fan of simulation racing games, I thought this would be a good fit. We could check out a game that I might not have checked out otherwise and see what it's all about. And I will say, Ride 5 is a crazy experience. It is definitely an experience when it comes to this type of racing game because it's very different from car racing games, which I'm much more familiar with. So Ride 5 right out of the gate has a bunch of different options. You have the ability to do a career mode. You have the ability to do a single race mode. You can actually customize your character, customize different decals and stuff like that. And there is online play. Now, of course, the career mode has you rising through the ranks of the motorbike world, basically trying to win races, gather points, and then win these cups so that you can get money. With your money, of course, you could buy different bikes, and there's a whole slew of bikes in this game. There's tons of bikes from manufacturers that, I mean, I've never heard of these. I know Suzuki, I know Yamaha, I know Honda. There's a BMW bike. I didn't know BMW did motorcycle racing. Why doesn't Mercedes-Benz? I am a fan of Mercedes-Benz. But the career mode's pretty fun. You know, you're going through, you're just trying to win races. You can tinker around with your bikes as well in order to make them different. And I will say Ride 5 definitely leans on the simulation side of things. This is not an easy game by any stretch of the imagination. When I first set it up, I was like, all right, I'll play normal mode. You know, I'm a seasoned racer with car racing games. How much different can it be? It is very different. There's the physics in this game are so like realistic. Like you have to lean into these turns and you have to brake at the right time or else you're gonna wreck. You're going to fall off your bike. You're going to knock into someone else, knock them off their bike. It is very heavy on the simulation side of things. Now, thankfully, you can tinker with a lot of the difficulty settings. You can adjust everything in this game from the standard difficulty to, you know, how things are impacted. There's tons of riding aids as well, and I definitely use them in this footage. I'm keeping 100. You know, I was struggling with this game at first just because I had never really played a realistic bike game before. I was trying to play this game like a Super Hang-On, and it's like, no, this is real. This is a realistic style of game, and I grew to appreciate it over time because you get these little nuances that you don't necessarily get in a lot of the arcade style games. You get to tinker with things. You get to adjust pretty much everything on your bike. So I definitely really enjoyed it. There are a ton of courses in this game as well, based on real world locations or even real world tracks, and some of them have some really cool environments. Like half the time, like I would fall off my bike and then I would just like look around the environment like, oh wow, this looks really cool. This is a very creative environment. They span from different regions. There's United States tracks, there's European tracks, and there's Japanese tracks. Very cool stuff. A very diverse lineup of different tracks. And the cool thing about all these tracks is they all have a day and night cycle and they all have a weather cycle. Now you can turn this off or you can choose what kind of weather you have, but like playing in the rain, once again, things just get crazy because now you have a slippery track and you're slipping and sliding all over the place. Like it's very, very intense stuff. Another thing that's really cool about the game is the customization because you can basically take your character and like add some decals to their uniform, and I was like, okay, you know, if I was a biker, like I would want like a cool, like a tongue out face. on the front of my jacket, and then like a big like smiley face because like the people behind me, it's like I'm mocking them, you know, I'm mocking them, I'm making fun of them for being behind me. So this is what I came up with, and honestly, I think it's pretty dapper. You know, I think it's very impressive in terms of not only originality, but just, you know, piecing all of these different decals together to make an amazing looking character. Now, as far as the racing is concerned, like I said, you definitely have to adjust to it. It's definitely, there is a learning curve with this game, but once you kind of start to get it, it becomes very satisfying. There is a rewind feature in the game though, so if you mess up, you can always rewind it. And I mean, looking at my footage, you could tell I was rewinding quite a bit. And I'm not ashamed to admit that because I am trying to learn the nuances of a bike racing game. So, you know, with the rewind feature, it definitely makes it more accessible to gamers who maybe aren't familiar with this, such as myself, and definitely makes it a much easier experience because, you know, you can mess up. You can afford to mess up, and you can afford to do little mistakes like that, like knock into a whole group of people and knock them off their bikes. Look, I'm sorry. I am sorry. Now, this game really takes the cake, though, in terms of visuals, because there are times when I'm playing this game and I'm like, is this a game? Like, is this actually, like, it looks so realistic. It is insane how realistic. And it's not just like the character models. It's not the bikes. It's not the environments. It's not the courses that you're racing on. It's not even the weather. It's the little nuances, like the fluid when you're in the first person mode, which, by the way, completely transforms how the game feels. And that's a whole nother thing. But the fluid reservoir at the top of the bike, it shifts when you're moving around. Like, it's insanity. It is absolute insanity how realistic this game looks. Look at this, where like I crashed and you could see the individual sparks from the bike as I'm crashed. Like, what? This is insanity. This is absolute insanity. The lighting effects, the weather effects are all really well done. All of the environments look absolutely gorgeous. When there's multiple bikes on screen, like there's no slowdown or anything like that. The game runs at a rock solid frame rate the entire time. Very high resolution visuals. The sounds themselves, you know, there's not a lot going on in the audio department, but all the bikes sound good. It sounds like you went downtown on a Friday night at 1 a.m. and you went kind of like in a seedier part of town, and like it's where all the bike dudes hang out. Not like the Harley dudes, but like the street bike dudes. So they're all just like revving their stuff up and like peeling out and stuff like that. You know, the audio is fine. There's also online in the game as well. It is a very robust game. It is a very robust game. You can do online races and stuff like that. You could share your online sort of your creations that you make for your customization for your bike or your character or stuff like that. You can share those online and other people can download them. Very impressive package here. You know, although I did struggle with the game at first, and honestly, I'm still struggling a bit with the game now, it's a very satisfying game because once it starts to click for you, like, you get it. You get when you need to brake. You get how you need to handle turns and stuff like that. And it's very rewarding because you get that sense of satisfaction where it's like, okay, I conquered this. You know, I figured this out. And it's a really impressive package. You know, I think if you're a fan of motorcycle games, and you know, whether it's arcade or a realistic style, there's definitely something here for you. You know, obviously if you're a realistic racing fan with motorcycles, like this is probably the only ball game in town. Like I've only heard people talk about Ride, so you're probably sold on it. But even if you're a bit more casual and you're willing to spend some time with the game and, you know, just enjoy the sheer speed and insanity of, like, I have never had a feeling, a sensation of speed as much as I've had with this game. When you're in the first person mode, it is insanity. It is insane. But I'm definitely enjoying Ride 5 more than I thought I would. You know, it's definitely a game with a bit of a learning curve, but once you start to adjust to it, or I mean just adjust the difficulty and turn on those riding aids, you'll be zipping around the course in no time. So let me know in the comment section down below, are you a fan of the Ride series? Have you ever played any of these games? Huge thank you to Ride 5 for sponsoring today's video. Make sure you guys check out this game, and as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.